Hey there, it's Mark from MENWHOBULLET. Thanks for checking out today's video where I'm going to show you 2 effective ways for you to start prioritizing and owning an ever-changing to-do list. It can seem like a lot of work, but after today, you're gonna walk away with 2 really great methods that I think are gonna help you out in your day today. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first steps of breaking down any prioritization list is understanding what's the amount of time that you're prioritizing for. When it comes to to-dos, you can plan in about 5 different ways. You can plan at the longest amount of space, which is yearly. You can break that down into a quarterly approach, monthly, weekly, and even daily. We're going to talk about 2 methods today. We're going to talk about the Ivy Lee method and the Eisenhower box or quadrant thinking method. And that's going to help you break down and prioritize the to-dos and tasks and things that you have going on inside of your life. So let's go ahead and go to the top down. We'll take a look at both of these methods. I'll show you how to use them and get them into your normal workflow. Right. Now that we have our notebook open, let's start to go through the 2 methods that we're going to talk about today. The first method we're going to talk about is going to be the Ivy Lee method. This is one of my favorite methods, not just because of how it works, but also the story behind it. And what's super cool about it is that this is one you can do every single day. It actually takes minimal setup, but you do have to plan for this. Just like anything that you have to prioritize, you do have to think about this first as you go into it. But what's cool is you do your work in advance. So the story behind the Ivy Lee method is that Ivy Lee gets brought into Charles M. Schwab, who was the president of this large steel company. And this is back in like the early 1900s. And he's looking for ways to get his management team to be more productive, to hit on the things they need to do. So Ivy Lee is like, look, give me 15 minutes with each one of your executives and I'm going to make this happen. And Charles Schwab is like, hey, so how much is this going to cost? And he's like, I'm not going to charge you anything. But when I'm done, you pay me what you think I deserve based off of how productive your teams can be. So here's how the Ivy Lee methods work. And this is why I think this is probably one of the best ways to prioritize. The way that this method works is pretty easy. What you're going to do at the top of each one of your pages, and let me just say, this is regardless if you do a weekly spread or anything else, or you can just use this method all the time. You don't have to incorporate this with something like the bullet journal method. But what Ivy Lee does is you're going to put the date that you're starting on. So let's say you are starting on Monday, September 20th. And what you're going to do is you're going to write the numbers 1 through 6. And then what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line straight across. And this is what your page is going to look like every single day. It's very minimal. It's very easy to do. Now, here's how the Ivy Lee method works. Every day, you're going to think about the 6 top things that you need to accomplish that day. The way the method works is you are actually supposed to work on this the day before, but let's just say you're starting on a Monday. Everyone likes to start something new on a Monday. So let's just say you're starting Monday morning on this. There's 2 really important things that I like to do regardless of which method I'm using, whether it's bullet journaling, whether it's the Ivy Lee method or the Eisenhower box, we'll talk about in a minute. I like to spend anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes each day in the morning and in the evening preparing and thinking through what happened in that day. So if you're taking the first 10 minutes of your day, block your calendar at work, sit down maybe with your cup of coffee or your breakfast, and you're going to think about and you're going to write down the 6 most important things that you need to accomplish that day. And the way this method works is when you come into work or when you start that day, you focus on each one of these things in sequential order. So you're going to focus on number 1. What's the most important thing that you have to do today? Let's say today I need to focus on my end of year report. I know that I have a bunch of these that I have to get done, so I want to make sure that regardless of anything else that I get done today, number 1 is going to get done. And let's go ahead and fill in the other 5. Now that I've gone through and thought about the 6 most important things that I need to do today, I'm going to go through my entire day trying to accomplish each one of these one at a time. Because I've prioritized these in numerical order, that is how you are going to approach your week. Down here, this is an entire section just for notes. And this is where everything else that happens during your day is going to come. This is where new priority items might come, new tasks, new things that you might need to take on in that following day. But you're not going to break from this. You're really going to focus in on getting this done. And this is also important too for prioritization. Now, if a fire drill comes onto your desk and you have to take it on, obviously you're not going to look at your boss straight in the face or over a call and be like, no, that's not on my priority list today. There are exceptions to this, but you do need to be able to say no. If it isn't something that needs to happen today that's super important, then you don't need to put it into your priority for that day. You put it down here in your notes section and you come back to it at the end of the day when we plan for the next. So once you go through your entire day, let's say that I accomplished only the first 2 things on my list, because there's a lot of stuff that can happen there. End of year reports, depending on the size of your team, that can be a lot. If you have tasks that you're taking on at home, those can be really lengthy. So it doesn't mean that you're always going to get through these. And that's totally okay, because now when our day is over and we come over to this page and we put the date, we're going to start this all over again. We're going to put 1 through 6. We're going to draw our line and write notes. And then I'm going to take the time Monday evening before I'm done with the day. Again, block out your calendar, set some time aside for yourself, 5 to 10 minutes if you need to. And you're going to look through all of the notes you took that day. You're going to look at what you accomplished that day. And then you're going to reprioritize these for the next day. And this is where this ever-changing prioritization list comes in really handy. This is a way that you can accomplish taking on a changing priority list very easily. As things change, these might come out of order. Actually, you know what? My deadline is coming up for this conference that I need to go to. So when I come in tomorrow on Tuesday, this is the first thing that I want to take on that day. Maybe during the day, a new project or task came in that I need to work on today. It wasn't an immediate thing. It wasn't a fire drill, but it's something that I have to do. Right? I need to finish project Y. So as I'm going through my list that night before, I'm looking through saying, you know what? I need to get that done tomorrow. So after I sign up for this conference, that's the most important thing because I'm running out of time. I need to finish up project Y. I can note over here that I've moved that over, or if you're completing something in that day, you can just cross it out or draw a line through it if you want to. And then I can go through and I'm going to finish out the rest here. Still need to prep for that Wednesday meeting. And what you can do as you're doing these, if it's helpful, you can draw a little migration arrow next to this, knowing that you move this to that next day. If you want, you could also just cross this out. The only reason I don't love crossing something out or putting an X next to it usually means that I've accomplished that thing. So you'll just need to figure out what works best for you visually, what lets you know what's happening there. And for me, this works. So you can try this out or, as I said, develop your own. And because I accomplished things, new things came in, I need something new. I want to still create this 6th item. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to get to it that day, but it's good for you to get it out of your brain and onto a sheet of paper. There's also a lot of benefit of writing and rewriting tasks. And I like to think there's a little psychology behind this. One, it's building the muscle memory. It's you actively writing down the words, thinking about them, getting them down on paper. But I think there's also a really psychological thing of getting sick and tired of moving the same tasks over and over and over again. So if you're consistently writing that you need to go through your inbox and organize it, but it's always the last thing on your priority list, it probably means that it's actually not really important. And in the next thing that we're going to learn about the Eisenhower Method or the quadrant box thinking, you'll see exactly where this falls. So every single day, this is exactly what you're going to do as you go through, and you just keep this bad boy going. What I love about this method also is it leaves plenty of room for notes as you're writing out your day. So if you don't want to create different pages in your notebooks, you don't have to. The ending of the story is pretty cool. So after all of these executives and this management team tried out this method for about 3 months, they were so happy that Charles Schwab was like, hey, Ivy Lee, thank you so much for your services. Here's a check for $25,000. And, back in 1918, that's a lot of dough. So it was definitely helpful for them. It has an awesome story behind it. And it's one of the best methods, in my opinion, for helping to prioritize an ever-changing to-do list. This next method is another one of my favorites because it's the easiest way to pay attention to what's going on, and you can really start to visualize, but this really makes you think about the things that are going on in your day to day. You don't need a ruler for this, but I like straight lines. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler and you're going to quarter this page. You're going to draw one vertical line and one horizontal line to break this up into 4 quadrants. Quadrant thinking is another activity that you can do every single day. It's another way that you can think about how you want to approach all of the tasks and think about which priority order that they happen in. So the Eisenhower box, or quadrant thinking, it depends who you talk to, is a method that focuses on the important things and how urgent it is to get that actual thing done. So if you have an ever-changing priority list, this can even happen during the day, or this could happen in a morning or afternoon routine as well. The first thing you do, quadrant out your page, and now at the top of this first 2 quadrants, quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, the first one you're going to write urgent. And over here in quadrant 2, you're going to write not urgent. Then what you're going to do is just turn your notebook to the side, and in quadrant 1, you're going to write important. And down here on these quadrants in quadrant 3, you're going to write not important. And if it's helpful for you, you can go ahead and mark these quadrants for yourself because each one of them is important. So the way that this method works is that you're going to take your tasks, all the things that are going on, and what you're going to do is you're going to put them in each one of these quadrants. If you want, one of my favorite things to do is actually use the blank page that's next to this, or you can use any page or a scrap piece of paper if you want, and do something which I like to call it, well, I want to find a different name, but I know it as a brain dump. There's probably a much better way of saying that. But what you're going to do is just take everything that's going on, every task, every event, every to-do, honey-do, anything that you have that's going on in your life, or if you want to compartmentalize this just to work or home, you can do that as well. And you're going to just get it all out on a sheet of paper first. It's actually a really great way to take on this method, is just to get all of your stuff onto a piece of paper. Once you have that, or if you choose not to, totally up to you, you're going to take each one of those items and you're going to put it in one of these quadrants. Quadrant number 1 are for the important and urgent things. These are the most immediate things that need to happen in your day to day, whether it's daily or weekly. You could also break this down into a monthly, quarterly, or yearly if you want. This can work for any type of portion of time, but let's focus right now just on a daily or a weekly, because I think that is a lot more manageable. So we've got urgent and important things in quadrant 1. In quadrant 2, these are important things, but they're not urgent. This really could be your secondary things that you need to accomplish. In quadrant number 3, these are not important things, but that are urgent. So you really have to break that down inside of your brain and say, okay, how important is this for me to get this done? And which one should it go into over here? And then the things that are down over here that are not important and not urgent are in quadrant 4. And honestly, these are things that really are tertiary in your life, and in some cases, if possible, should be automated if you can. And after you drop the things you need inside of here, you can do something similar to what we did with the Ivy Lee method, which is cross those off as you go through those. If you want to only focus on quadrant 1 first, which you should, then you're going to write your items down inside of here, and as you finish off each one of those tasks, you just cross them out. And once quadrant 1 is done, move into 2, move into 3, move into 4. This is something you can use on the daily if you want to, as I mentioned, or even on the weekly. And I think that just helps break it down a little bit more for yourself. Both of these methods are easy enough to set up in any notebook that you want. This is just a blank Arch and Olive notebook that I was using today for this. But if you're interested in really focusing on different methodologies for being productive, I do want to recommend just one notebook, which I have actually found really helpful for myself. And this is the one from Bear and Fig, and this is the Clear Habit Journal. If you're familiar with James Clear, this entire notebook is all about focusing on breaking down habits and goals and things like that. My favorite part of this notebook Well, it's actually two things are the favorite part of the notebook. In the back of this notebook, they have an entire toolkit, which is just filled with different methods and methodologies that you can use. What I also love about this notebook too is an easy way that you can break down your pages. So for the Eisenhower method, for instance, we talked about breaking this page into quarters. And on these pages, and hopefully you can see it, there are plus signs for the center of your pages, top and bottom, and also left and right. And there's also a nice slim package as well, a little bit smaller than your standard A5 if it's something that you're interested in. Since I mentioned the Clear Habit Journal right there at the end from Baron Fig, I do want to let you know that you can use my discount code MENWHOBULLET to get 10% off any of your purchases at baronfig.com. You can really use any notebook to do this, but this one, as I showed you right there at the end, has some really cool special features inside of that notebook to make things even quicker and easier for you as you set up these methods. I hope you liked this video. Let me know in the comments below if you found these methods or find these methods to be helpful in solving the problems that you're trying to tackle, especially around prioritizing that ever-changing to-do list. I'll talk with you later on and have a wonderful day. Happy planning.